core question is this removal going to be enough to actually deal with what Staz is going to be able to put to the table? We're about to find out as we move straight into game number 2. I spot a big Game Hunter and a Super Collider as well, Language Hacker. So Surrender has moved on to his secondary deck. Let's see how it works out.
Looks like in the mulligan he kept the big Game Hunter and the Super Collider as well.
Super Collider is a terrifying card to play against if you're the mage. But what do you make of Staz's opening hand? He does have the Conjurer's Call, but what about the rest of it?
Gonna be a slow start. I mean, the deck doesn't have that much card draw, so when you're not on the coin, as Staz is right now, Giant's not coming down for a long time. Fortunately, he has 2 Twilight Drakes. They will be a little weaker than they normally are if he would be on coin, obviously because the hand size is smaller. But this is usually how the mage games start off. If you don't have the Fire Tree Witch Doctor at the start, you're just hero powering for a turn or 2.
Yeah, it feels a little bit awkward as well because as you hero powering each other, the warrior is actually gaining a lead because of the armor and the use it can make of the armor. It means that when you eventually do get a minion down, it's ever so more likely to be removed. So it's kind of just a feels bad moment for Staz, but I think being able to go Twilight Drake into Twilight Drake is going to be very, very powerful against some of the turn 4/turn 5 removal that Surrender's going to have.
Surrender has to decide here if he wants to just armor up, get the value out of that, or try to shield block and find perhaps a shield slam. Spend the mana, gain the armor now.
Yeah, gonna shield block now. I honestly wondered whether he was going to consider, or whether I would consider, just coining out Wrench Caliber and start stacking that damage on, because Super Collider in the matchup, although there's a lot of weapon removal, of course, is often a weapon you want to just sit and... It's more of a threat being equipped as opposed to being used a lot of the time, because when it's equipped, your opponent can't really play much into it, whereas... you know, once it's used up, yeah, it's done its job. It doesn't really stop your opponent doing much, so I don't know. We'll see what he does. Maybe the Wrench Caliber is going to be used to draw out some of that weapon removal.
Staz here with a Book of Spectres draw. I was considering, I think, if you wanted to play that instead to try and find something more appealing, but I think Twilight Drake on 4 is just good enough for now.
Yeah, it would require, armor up Shield Slam to be able to clear off, and if your opponent Shield Slams your 4/7 Twilight Drake...
Pretty happy.
That's kind of a win for Staz at this point.
Yeah. One thing to note was that Staz's opening hand was, I believe, Voodoo Doll, Twilight Drake, something that'll come into play if Hexlord Malacrast comes down, if he switched to the secondary list.
I'm glad someone's keeping track of that, Language Hacker, because I'm definitely not. Or at least I wasn't. Yeah, this is
an interesting spot.
Watching this game now, and just the way the matchup is, you realize how savage the format is, because Surrender lost a bad matchup game 1. His tech, his secondary deck he is using now, has to perform, or he just loses, and that's just the series over, done and dusted. So a lot of pressure on Surrender now.
Plays out the Militia Commander, trade into the Twilight Drake, weaken it, hopefully set up for a Wrench Caliber next turn, or perhaps if another minion is played, maybe even a Super Collider swing. Also,
funnily enough, it's still kind of 1-for-1 to Twilight Drake at this point, right? Because if you're, again, on the other side, like the Shield Slam being played, if Staz pings this turn, Surrender's probably reasonably happy about that, because it means there's no bigger things coming out to play. There's no Mountain Giant. There's nothing else that's going to cause too much of a threat, at least.
So if there was a Mountain Giant in Staz's hand right now, with 7 cards in total, so 6 excluding the Mountain Giant still wouldn't be playable this turn. It would cost 6 mana. I think by doing this, Surrender is hoping, I mean, like you said, if Staz comes out with a ping, not much else will be developed. Surrender's pretty happy with that. But if something else is developed, he can even use the remaining Militia Commander to swing into the new minion and maybe use Super Collider to trade off both.
We are going to see Staz use the Conjurer's Call in here. What's in the box? The 5/2 I can't remember the name of, but it is a demon with Rush.
Portal Keeper, perhaps?
This is all on you. I can't remember the name. I've admitted this now. It's on you to save the day, Language Hacker. But also the 4/4 Ogre. So, although not the most threatening minions in the world, 2 minions are better than 1 most of the time. So
these will die to a Super Collider swing, but the combined health is out of range of a Dynamatic. So there's very specific answers. Just barely.
The point is here, though, as well, that Surrender does have to do something about this, because although the health is relatively low, the attack value is pretty high for Staz here, like 9 damage hitting him next turn if Surrender doesn't deal with this. Like, that's just a lot.
And there's going to be more coming down.
Yeah. I think it's maybe this is just the way the two games have rolled out so far for Staz, and maybe just the way his second deck's built. But I feel like he's never not had insane value every single turn of each game so far. Okay, there's Super Collider, nod from Staz. Right, he knows what he's up against.
Ooh.
I like playing that on curve.
So this is interesting. Staz could play up the Unseen Saboteur, but he knows that Surrender has coin in hand, so he might want to wait until he sees the coin being used, and then hopefully pull out something important. 6 mana, Book of Spectres, leave him.
Ooh, that'll do.
Interesting. I'm curious if he waits, however, on the Acidic Swamp Ooze. His Twilight Drake's big enough that he can just play it out now, but if he plays the Ooze, you don't really develop that much this turn. You're not going to tempo out a Cattier behind it.
Yeah, the important part is he isn't playing an Astromancer this turn, which means, as you said, that there's either play was going to be only 1 minion.
Right.
Super Collider is ineffective unless it's proccing and execute. That I believe even in Surrender's secondary list he does not run.
No executes.
So yeah, I don't mind the Twilight Drake this turn. In fact, I'm kind of with you on that one.
It's interesting. We'll see what he chooses, but if he chooses to go Twilight Drake, that means he's not necessarily committing to an Ooze next turn, and we see the Acidic Swamp Ooze come down. This sets up for the bigger Astromancer next turn, which puts 2 threats on the board, both of which are much higher mana than Twilight Drake, which will let him efficiently use the Conjurer's Callings. So I think
there was a lot of options that turn.
There were a lot.
I still kind of liked Unseen Saboteur, mainly because it would require exactly, I guess that's the flaw, right? It requires exactly the Dynomatic to kill it off, but Surrender does have 2 in this list, okay.
Dynomatics?
Yep.
Yep.
I was just checking. There's so many variations of these warriors that everyone's playing. Just got to keep our eyes tight on that one.
I think I like this setup a bit better. You get really good use out of Astromancers, and his one of Super Collider has just been destroyed, so Astromancer's going to be very, very difficult to deal with.
Yeah. The only weird part is if Surrender doesn't kill this Ooze, which he doesn't have to, it's not really a huge threat, then the Astromancer, the Ooze makes Astromancer better, but also Brawl better.
True.
Because there's a low roll chance for Staz, right? If the Ooze wins the Brawl. So it's just kind of a funny one, right? You set up a better Astromancer, which sets up a better Brawl in a roundabout way. It's very odd. He's going to clear it off with Wrench Caliber, though. There's one bomb. Shuffled into the deck. Finally, we see some bombs.
Interesting. So he's going armor up instead of playing Town Crier. There's no Shield Slam in hand. Obviously, the 2 armor won't help him clear much at this point, but it could conceal the fact that there would be another Rush Minion drawn. Because if Surrender had played out the Town Crier, Staz would know, okay, well, there's either Militia Commander or Ziliax in his hand.
Oh, okay. Onyxia.
Daughter of Deathwing.
Ah, you know your lore.
What if that's what she says when she comes onto the field?
Oh, is it? Oh, I didn't hear that. Did you know that anyway, or was it purely voice lined?
I knew it.
Ah, but see, don't try and make me look stupid. I've had enough of that with Saul in the past. This is a new era here, Language Hacker. Come on.
Okay. Well, Big Game Hunter kept in the open hands, looking really, really tempting now.
It's not the 8/8 Surrender was planning on BGHing,
Hey,
but it'll do.
We'll take what we can get.
Yeah, it'll do.
The problem with the Big Game Hunter is that there's still this 5/5 left over, and you know there's at least the second half of a Conjurer's Calling in Staz's hand, because we've seen him use it on the Twilight Drake earlier on.
Yep. Do you remember when BGH was 3 mana? That card was OP.
That card was powerful. I mean, it sees play at 5 mana, so...
There's the bomb going off pretty early for Staz there. Not too impactful. Surrender probably doesn't really care that much that the bomb went off or not, to be honest. He doesn't have Dr. Boom in hand, so he wouldn't have ticked anyway for those extra boom bots. But mainly the health isn't really an issue. Surrender just needs to just secure himself here and not just get run over by big dudes. And also there's no extra bombs available for Surrender to even play. So it's not like he can think, okay, I'm in a terrible spot. I'm going to stack up like 4 bombs and hope I just get him. You know, and hope they proc.
Right. Honestly, the way these hands are looking, that might be what Surrender needs to do to find a win. Staz looks like he's not going to run out of gas anytime soon. Eventually, the Omega Devastators will be online for Surrender, so that'll help like hugely. But for now, he's going to be struggling to deal with the pressure.
Yeah, Omega Devastator, the stronger version of BGH in every circumstance, I think. Oh, okay, bit of a swing and a miss there. Only get a Jan'alai, and no, Jan'alai does not summon Ragnaros once.
So this is actually a big deal, because normally Warpath you can use it to clear something, Astromancer plus something after 10 mana, and it lets you use Warpath as a clear. But with Staz's hand size, with Twilight Drake being large, Mountain Giants being huge, and even just Astromancer pulling something that's 7 mana, the fact that Warpath can be used here to clear a board from Surrender's side is huge, and might let him get to that turn 10 where the Omega Devastators can help him swing back.
It does something.
Yeah, it does something.
Normally it doesn't. Especially, again, running a no-execute list. I saw some players actually teching in Spell Zerker for Warpath.
Yeah.
To deal with Nomi,
Nomi,
right? Yeah. That's kind of just a funny tech, right?
Yeah, it's cute. I saw someone running the new 2-mana Fountain Reservoir or whatever it's called.
The 0/6?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Similar thing.
Yeah. So right now, as you rightly said, the Devastators are what's going to potentially win Surrender, or at least secure, make him survive a bit longer in this game. But he has to get to 10 mana. So yeah, you're right. This clear is huge. The fact that a tiny bit of breathing room here.
Oh, he's going for Dynamatic instead.
Oh, okay.
This is actually right. It gives you tempo.
And bear in mind, you can't coin into an Omega Devastator.
Oh, no.
It does not work. You need 10 base mana. You cannot use.
You can, but you'll be disappointed.
Oh yeah, okay, you can. You'll just feel bad afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, this feels much stronger from Surrender's side. It lets him save the weapon swing, and has a 3/4 in play. So now he might be able to deal with the next minion that Staz plays out. And
also as well, the second there's a mech that's on the board, yes, Dr. Boom's not live, so they aren't going to have rush or anything, but there can be an assembly into, say, a magnetic minion to put it on top of the already live Dynamatic on the board, which means, suddenly one Ziliax away from a decent trade, to be completely honest.
Well, there's one on the deck. You can 10 cry for it.
That's very true as well.
It's a 50-50. There's a commander left in the deck as well.
Staz has all the mana worth of hand in the world.
So
just has to work out what to play.
Yeah, Astromancer will spawn a 9-mana minion.
Another throwback. Onyxian Cenarius. Wow. Old school. Not really the most impactful minion, because I believe 9 mana are actually super strong in this current expansion.
9 mana, yeah.
Or in the current rotation.
There's very few duds at 9 mana. I don't think there are any. Cenarius might be the dud.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, Cenarius is probably one of the worst, which means that, yes, it's the worst, but if a 5/8 is the worst minion, then it's still okay.
It's reasonable.
I'll take it. One more turn till these Devastators are alive, and no, I'm not joking you. He can play both and deal 2 times 10 damage to do 2 different minions, effectively clearing them up next turn. And that's going to be Surrender's stabilization point. I think he's just digging as well. He's just after Dr. Boom.
The Ziliax is big because it lets him... Exactly. Magnetizing into the Dynamatic lets him clear the Cenarius, which is scarier than the Astromancer for Conjurer's Calling.
And heal up some of that health as well. It's going to be nice. Just put him a little bit higher. Maybe he survives 1 extra turn, 1 extra big minion swing. Because he's just gaining at least 6 health. This potentially goes up to full if this Dynamatic gets traded into.
A couple of ways that Staz can deal with this now. He has the 2 Voodoo Dolls. He just drew Scale Worm he could use to trade and ping with. Using the Scale Worm would mean that Surrender would gain 3 health. I don't know if 3 health is that relevant at this moment. Funnily enough, he could even play Unseen Saboteur, try to rip a brawl.
He's like 1 mana away from a really nice turn, I think.
What are you looking at?
So he could, obviously the extra mana, but the Scale-Eyed Ping trade, right? Get rid of the Dynamatic.
Right. And
then just attack, and then just go deep. Just go Khadgar into Conjurer's Call.
Ooh.
He could still do something similar with this Voodoo Doll instead. Which is kind of the same thing.
In some matchups, you can go Voodoo Doll Conjurer's Calling on it, but I think against the Warriors, you want to get a bit more value out of Conjurer's Calling.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Khadgar's got Conjurer's Calling on the 5/5 now.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was just talking about what Staz was doing,
sure.
pinging his Voodoo Doll instead of using the Conjurer's Calling.
A lot of the time, it can be you create a scary moment for your opponent if you do it on 3, right? If they play a threat, you Voodoo Doll it on 3. If they don't trade, then you can actually just Conjurer's Call and gain the board against some more aggressive decks. It's a nice little trick.
So interestingly, Staz held back on the Conjurer's Calling, and I think this is a nod to sort of say, hey, if you have a Mega Devastator, you probably have to use it now. I'm hitting your face for 10. And if he had gone Conjurer's Calling, well, there's some fresh minion on the board for a Mega Defender. He's already seen 1 Warpath. Unfortunately, Surrender has the second one now, and he's actually able to deal with this board. But I think this was a nod from Staz to say, I want you to use your Mega Devastator on a subpar target.
Okay. The worry I've got is the longer this game goes on, although there's tons of juice available, the second surrender draws Dr. Boom, the hero card. Oh, let's get a... Not sure if you guys felt that stall then, but we did, but it doesn't matter. But yeah, as soon as surrender draws the Dr. Boom, then there are some problems because suddenly rushing mechs can, and discoverable mechs can kind of deal with that. Surrender felt that brawl being used.
That's got to sting.
And yet, just a lesson for all those people who have not done that interaction yet. Brawl does a whole lot of nothing versus one minion, but still is forcibly played because of the Saboteur. So
Yeah.
big deal there for Staz.
It works on spells that don't even have targets. Like Dire Frenzy, for example. If you don't
Yeah.
have a beast, it does nothing.
Yep. Imagine though, if Staz played the Saboteur
Oh.
and Omega Assembly procs, and Sunda's like, oh, okay,
Thanks.
yeah,
Thanks for the 1 man.
thank you.
A lot of options here. You could go full board, play both Omega Devastators. You could Omega Assembly to start if you'd like. See if you can find anything else to play from there. Big Game Hunter not finding a target right now. A second one.
I think the Omega Devastators might be pretty sick because one thing that Mage does struggle with at the moment is fighting back on board after they've lost it.
Oh yeah.
Right, normally the only way they normally fight back is if it's against some smaller minions, and then you go like giant Khadgar Conjurers. Yes, you can hit me one more time, but I have either taunts or big dudes that don't have taunt.
Right.
But against Warrior, I feel like it's a little bit tricky. So if double Devastator comes out, a third one as well. Yeah, chuck those Devastators out, clear the board, and now suddenly, what does Staz even do to fight back? He doesn't actually have a dragon to be able to proc this Crowd Roaster either. Uh-oh.
This was a powerful swing turn. I'm glad Surrender went for this line. He's seen a Voodoo Doll and a Scale Worm, so there are a few options to clear this.
He can brawl it away
boy.
with Unseen Saboteur. Oh, if it happens, it'll be really fun.
Raven will be guaranteed. There's only one spell.
Yeah, it's just if he plays Unseen Saboteur into this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It would be a guaranteed brawl. Obviously, Staz doesn't know that. So yeah, Crowd Roaster left kind of stranded right now.
Right.
You can go for a defensive option with Safeguard. You could.
But the problem with the defensive options is you just get beat, right? You know it's already dead, and then what are you waiting for that Surrender's not going to cash in on, right? The longer the turns go, the longer Staz has to be very afraid of Dr. Boom.
So you could go Safeguard Conjurer's Calling It, which leaves you with a 0/5 left over to soak some damage.
2/6 drops.
Yeah,
Okay.
2/6 drops and a 0/5 left over. Alternatively, you could just play the Crowd Roaster without the Battle Cry. Oh my.
Watch Surrender's face. There we go.
Oh no.
Wow, Staz is just like, I knew it was going to happen.
And this is what we were talking about before the game started. The Unseen Saboteurs. I mean, this is exactly what you want to have happen.
This game's so
And
back
it
forth.
won the brawl. This is, oh my goodness.
You know what's scary? In the past 24 hours, this is not the first time you and I have watched and seen Saboteur win a brawl.
Oh,
We
yeah.
saw it on the stream we were watching earlier. And it's kind of nuts. Surrender just scratching his head, whether that was for comic value or not. He does have to think of a way to win this game. It's looking a little bit dicey right now. Omega Devastator number 3 is definitely going to help. But he just needs Dr. Boom. He just needs it.
He's going to forego playing the Omega Assembly here just because he has a 3/3 into 4. Adds up to 10. This is the most aggressive he can be right now. With one bomb left in Staz's deck, with the Clockwork Goblin putting it in now, if you push enough damage, you might be able to get there.
Yep.
However, with the Ziliax pickup, that's very unlikely to happen now because you can heal back up from Staz's perspective.
I think Ziliax trade Khadgar Conjurers go.
Oh yeah, I mean,
That seems pretty good to me since you've played your opponent's brawls for them. You get the heal value.
you've seen both Warpaths too, so even if you have like some medium-sized minions, there's no
Whatever.
answer.
You just need more stuff at this point. And this is why it's a big deal. Like this matchup at this point normally becomes Conjurer's Calling versus Dr. Boom. And Conjurer's Calling wins when they don't have Dr. Boom. Oh, well, I say that. Not the best one in the world, but still, Surrender's unhappy.
But even, that's the thing, oh no. Even with minions that aren't crazy, like the Grubrash Berserk and the Faceless Manipulators, it's just enough stuff on board. Nullifier. Curious to see if that'll come down this turn. It doesn't let him make any convenient trade. I mean, it lets him, for example, if he magnetizes the Omega Devastator, he could cleanly kill the 2/7 Grubrash Berserker. But I don't think you want to be leaving that 5/5 up. The mage does have a hero power. That can get out of hand really quickly.
Yeah. I wonder if he actually, if anything, Beryllium's the catapult.
What are you hitting?
Don't know, yeah, I've not decided.
You could also bump the Demolisher into the 5/5 and then activate the Big Game Hunter in your hand.
That's true. Oh, that's not bad, actually. Yeah, that's not bad.
You can go with Wrench Caliber as well, clean up a Manipulator, and then maybe take a value trade with the Omega Devastator on the Khadgar.
Yeah. Either way, you're killing the Khadgar.
Probably.
I'm signing up to that one. Like, the Khadgar's way too scary, and you know there's Conjurers available too. Looks like he is going to go for this BGH play. I like it. You sold it to me, Language Hacker, there.
It's the most stuff you can remove while developing your, well, developing a Fortitude, but
hey, it kills one of the minions on the board.
yeah.
And also just shuffling the bomb. Just a small note as well, that Ziliax did put Staz the health total away from a clean bomb kill. So multiples of 5, basically, you have to look out for. Not that it's a huge deal at this second in time, but you know, if somehow Surrender shuffles 4 bombs and he goes to 3, well, he could have been at 20 and died instead. So it's all important to keep an eye on.
Observe.
I think at this point, Staz might want to get a bit more value out of this Conjurer's Calling. I don't know if he wants to use it on the Gurubashi Berserker, because the Gurubashi Berserker itself, after trading, will go up to 5 attack, which is kind of threaten itself. So he could choose to Rotten Apple Bomb and protect it, or Safeguard and protect it. He could even go Safeguard Conjurer's Calling on this turn, it might be a bit better. How much slower route would be playing the Hexlord Malacrast to get back the 2 Twilight Drakes that he had in his opening hand?
Yeah. Oh, it's tough, isn't it? Because he has value, he just doesn't have pressure.
Right. I think the only way he could lose at this point is, like you were saying, if enough bombs happen to be shuffled in over the next few turns, then he draws them all at once.
What about just... Yeah, I think I'm with trade, crowd roaster, Conjurers.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to go for Hexlord Malacrast. I'll do sound effects.
Do you think he ever pings his Gurubashi to make the weapon swing more difficult for...
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I actually agree. I think that was a bit of a missed trick there. Is there that much of a punish for pinging? Like, do you care about 1 health? I don't think so. He could have dealt him 2 extra damage there. Sorry, 1 extra damage. Apologies. Because you don't ping face, right?
Oh, this is a full clear. With the Dr. Boom draw, that Kaboom bot in Surrender's hand has Rush, and the Death Rattle will kill off the Malacrast, denying the Conjurer's Calling. Oh, this is a big decision point, because now he's
hero power.
Yeah.
I think you do it anyway.
I think you have to Kaboom bot. Yeah. I don't think you can afford to just deal with 2 8-drops next turn. You already know you have to deal with 2 more Twilight Drakes now.
I wonder... Oh god, these bumps happen quite often, don't they?
They're showing up real quickly.
Yeah, not much time between these. I do wonder, though, how much Surrender knows exactly what their Malacrast has. You know, I don't know if he's at 100% on that.
It's true.
But we'll see.
It is a fairly uncommon tech card, so I'm not sure if Surrender's been paying attention to that. He may well have been.
I think it's very easy, and you know more than I do as someone with a much higher player pedigree than me, and more recent, that it'll be all good and well remembering the first few cards at the start of a game.
Right.
But this game's been going on for a bit, and I think it's very easy with everything else that's happening, especially like the Saboteurs and the Brawls, to forget, like, wait, what were those cards that he started with again? Because one of them he hasn't played. So he doesn't know one of them.
Voodoo Doll hasn't been played yet. So obviously at this point all of these mechs have Rush, so Surrender's trying to figure out which of these he wants to play in combination with or without the hero power. Staz, knowing that the 2 Brawls were gone, decided to play the Safeguard instead of the second Twilight Drake, so that if a Rush minion gets through the Safeguard, there's still 0-5 left over that has to be killed before the other minions can be reached.
Yep, not bad at all. It's gonna just throw this in there, protect the Goblin a little bit with the hero power. You rush the Goblin afterwards, of course.
Yep.
To make sure it doesn't die, save a minion there, and most importantly, Surrender wants something to stick to the board so he can Beryllium it. Because one of the problems with the Beryllium Nullifier is the mana cost. So if you have to play it, you have to get a cheap mech. You have to play it and then play Beryllium, which often means you're not hero powering.
Right.
Which then makes the turn... You really want to press the hero power every turn with Dr. Boom to get some value on.
Especially this one.
Especially that one.
There could be anything in there. Even a Mechathun.
That's true. I'd take Mechathun right now. Just make a 10-10 and be like, can you kill this?
That's the thing, you need to
and
be
then
able to
yes,
board.
Voodoo Doll. Oh no!
Oh.
damage and the ping there are going to clean this board off nicely. And Staz is starting to mount levels of pressure that Surrender can't really answer right now. Beryllium Nullifier in hand, I discover a mech, and there's Dr. Boom.
Ooh.
I don't think... Oh no, he just
there's
shuffled the
at least-
bomb in,
yeah,
right?
there should be
so
one
there'll
bomb.
be 2 boom bots that can go in. Funnily enough, one of them won't go off because it has to trade into a 0-1.
I think his boom is probably his strongest play, so Surrender's probably thinking what he wants over the next couple turns now, which is why he's deciding between these 3. I don't think Beryllium Nullifier is gonna cut it. So
Security Rover is normally a fairly strong pick against decks that don't have massive minions, because you can normally get multiple trades a turn because of the way the minion works, which is quite helpful. Oh wait,
did we not count properly?
Probably not. Welcome to casting, language hacker. We always miscount things. But yeah, there's plenty of boom bots. I take it all back. Dr. Boom's looking pretty sweet right now.
This is actually interesting.
Wait,
how he wants to trade
he could
these.
just kill Staz next turn, potentially.
That's what I'm saying. These boom bots could do a lot of damage. I'm having flashbacks, Raven.
It's okay, you're safe. You're on the caster desk now. No one can get you here.
One's not what he wanted to see. That? Okay.
So it's like, okay, 2.
So this means there's at least 3 bombs left. So if he managed... Oh, yeah, these bombs are not hitting... Oh, no. Surrender could still win this game. If there's 3 bombs left with 11 cards... Oh, my
Oh, he
goodness.
can't believe it. Wait, did he?
Hold on.
Oh, that's a push. Okay, bomb pushed him to 10. And there was 2 more bombs in the deck.
Yeah.
So if Staz doesn't heal, he could just randomly die next turn, regardless of what Surrender does, based on only 9 cards left, 2 of them are bombs. Oops. This could be rough.
There's a defensive play Staz could make that heals him above that. He could play Rotten Apple Bomb and then Conjurer's Calling it, getting the
true.
Death Rattle heal, and then getting 2 more 5-drops.
I think if you're considering that, then first protocol for me is always Fire Tree Witch Doctor, because
Right.
some of the mage spells get some work done in themselves as well.
I'm not sure if there's any lethal options you could find from the Witch Doctor or the Conjurer's Calling. 7 damage on board, 18 health for Surrender.
Observe and reflect.
Double Leroy off of the Scorcher. 12 plus 7.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, do you go for it though, mate?
Oh, probably not.
Yeah,
but
imagine. Staz would be the greatest player in the world if he did that. Sorry, Hunter Ace. But Staz, if he just jammed Conjurer's Call in and got double Leroy for lethal, I would stand up and applaud. He's just going to push damage. Like, Staz wants to just actually do something to end this game now. And he pings everything off, keeps himself at 10. He does not heal with the Rotten Apple Bomb. And if Surrender, say, draws another bomb activator, which he does not, he could have even stacked more pressure.
oh,
I don't think you can pass.
yeah, I think you do.
It feels a little bit bad, especially if we see 2 bombs go off now. But I think Surrender's correct not to.
Yeah,
not
this
to
makes
do
a lot
that,
of
yeah.
sense.
Here we go. Oh, there's one.
There's 1 more in the deck.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
Still not bad. And suddenly, this game has been so back and forth. I've not known what to make of it.
I think one of the main turning points was when Staz Conjurer's Calling the 7-man minion and was left with another Astromancer and the Jan'alai.
Yeah.
The fact that the Warpath was able to clear the board, just reset tempo, bought Surrender enough time to get to turn 10, where the Omega Devastators just were able to turn it around. It looked pretty rocky, but it looks like he might be able to squeeze it out. He's not out of the woods just yet. There's still some threats, but...
I think now just... Ooh, so there's tough choices, right? Okay, so now already we remove the Crowd Roaster, remove a minion Conjurer's Call.
Right.
Because they've not got the mana. But the spells, as I said, the mage spells often just get stuff done.
All 3 of these are incredible right now. Ice Barrier buying you some extra health. Power Creation could either get you up some big taunts or perhaps find some chargers. I don't think there's any lifesteal you can get at 6 mana. Flame Strike also almost clears the board. It leaves a 2/3 guard bot from the Security Rover. It looks like he's going for that.
Okay. I was interested. I think, personally, I would have gone for something a bit bigger as a play, because you give your opponent time to just hit you more and you're on 9 health. Like, what's the response? Magic neutralized.
6 damage.
511.
Ooh.
It is targetable by Crowd Roaster, but most importantly, not targetable by Conjurer's Calling.
Oh my good. I think he needed that because there was no way for him to clear the
That's what I
guard
mean,
bot.
yeah. Normally Conjurer's Calling can be used as a sort of quasi-removal.
He would have to have gone for Crowd Roaster on the 5/11 and Conjurer's Calling it to try to find either a taunt or like an Amani Warbear, some rush. But the Alex Strauss gives him a defensive option. back up to 15 health. Even with 9 showing, the extra bomb in the deck would only do what, 14 damage?
And most importantly as well, there is knowledge that Surrender has no hand apart from 1 card he's going to draw next turn, and his hero power is deal 3, so he's not going to be able to generate a mech next turn as well. So Staz is safe, I'll say, for now, because there's what, 5, 6, 9 damage 100% going to happen next turn from Surrender, and then plus a card. But I don't think many cards deal 6 from hand that Surrender can draw, or many mechs for that matter.
I don't think there's any direct damage left in his deck. I mean,
it would just be magnetic. If you say
from
Omega Assembly into okay,
that's a good draw. He can trade off the Town Crier, Dynomatic, and use the Dynomatic to kill off the Alexstrasza.
Oh yeah, Surrender's nodding. Surrender's like, yeah, yes, Language Hacker.
I agree.
I agree. That is a good play, sir. Oh, doesn't even need to.
Oh yeah, you're
he's
right.
got the zap.
The hero power can zap it.
I disagree, Language Hacker. That was not the play. Okay, so Surrender leaning back and just hoping enough is enough. But now, there's exactly enough mana for Mountain Giant Conjurer's Call, and it is, you know, pretty much straight down the middle whether you get the 7/8 taunt or not. And if he doesn't, though, he's just close to dead.
Yeah. Much more likely to get a taunt from the Mountain Giant Conj Calling than the Crowd Roaster.
Yep. And he doesn't have any other options as far as I can see.
This has been super close. Surrender has set himself up to actually find a way to win the game.
And this is the fear, right? You can have all the stuff in the world versus Warrior, but I feel like the second Dr. Boom hits the board, your cards plus ones you can generate get so much more powerful, because it's not only there are battle cries, but also the stats that are rushable on the board on that turn. So you almost, you know, a Dynomatic is almost a Mountain Giant in a funny roundabout way.
Power, yeah.
It could have, if without the hero power, killed an Alexstrasza on its own. So the power level of all your deck just jumps so much. Okay, he's going to take down the 3/4. Well, here we go, Conjurers. A Beryllium Nullifier of his own, and also the Sapper as well, which, if you don't know, it's a 5/8, that every time a minion on your side of the board dies, it deals 2 to face ultimate.
Perfect. Okay. I don't believe there's any heal left for Staz. Oh, I think Surrender happened to see what was drawn before we did. Yeah, there it is.
That's a bomb. That's it. Staz draws the bomb.
Wow.
Surrender put him to 4, and Surrender evens up the series. Both players taking it, you know, to the final cards, and that was a close one.